Well, considering the topic that we're about to cover and the fact that I went out today and bought an iPad Air makes me feel just a little bit dirty inside. Like maybe there's just something wrong with this. I don't know. What's going on, guys? JayzTwoCents, and I'm bringing you about the 4000th X99 and 5960X video to your sub box. But my video is going to be different than everybody else's because it's, well, my video. And nobody's done my video yet. I'm doing my video right now. So if you already saw my video, then there's more wrong than the fact that I bought an iPad. So if you've been following absolutely any of my social media, then it should come as absolutely no surprise to you that I went out and purchased a 5960X Intel i7 on launch day. And because of that, I've gotten a lot of comments from people as well on those social media platforms saying, Jay, what the hell was wrong with your 4790K? Wasn't it good? Yes, it was good, but that's mainstream. And this was my very first opportunity to own an enthusiast platform, and I just went ahead and went for broke with the Extreme processor because of the fact that it's got those 8 cores, 8 true cores, 16 threads with hyperthreading, and 20 megabytes of cache. I thought, you know, with everybody saying how beastly this CPU is when it comes to just chewing through content creation, I mean, JJ said it, AnandTech has said it, everybody who's reviewed the CPU before me who had the engineering samples have said that this thing is just an absolute multimedia creator's wet dream. And damn it, I want to have a dream too. Now, I had a couple of different ways I could have done this video. I mean, I could have talked about specs and this and that, and it's like, you know, most of my viewers do not care about the nitty-gritty specs. They kind of want to know, how does it overclock and how does it perform? So what we did today is we ran a whole bunch of tests. You can see them on the monitor behind me, and I did these tests both at stock speeds as well as my max overclock. Now I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you a little bit of a spoiler alert here. My max overclock was not necessarily jaw-dropping, but at the same time, the scaling of overclocking on this processor is absolutely phenomenal. And that just, once again, goes to the fact that it's got 8 cores, 16 threads. And yeah, the Xeon's been offering stuff like that for a long time, but this is unlocked and overclockable. All right, so before we start talking about my overclock specs, let's go ahead and talk about how this thing performed at stock speeds. Now, I ran 3 tests on this. I had a bunch of different tests I could have done. I started doing like pass mark and things like that, and I thought, you know, instead of doing synthetic benchmarks, I wanted to do a real world test so I could actually gauge, Jay, was the price tag of this processor worth it? And what was the price tag? Well, for me, it was $899 because I live near a Micro Center, and Micro Center is, well, they're suckers because they sell it for less than cost. But then again, while I'm there, I tend to buy other things. So really, who's the sucker in all of this? So for the benchmarks, I use Cinebench 11.5, Cinebench 15, and then I used Sony Vegas 11 and rendered a 1080p on best preset for internet encoder, which was actually 24 million by 10 million variable bitrate. So that was what I used for this test. And in order to put as much oomph into the render as I could, rather than just being a simple MOV to H.264 type of conversion, I went ahead and put in there some sharpening to the track. I did some color correction, I did some contrast correction. We've got sounds, we've got overlays, transitions, things like that. So I wanted to see, you know, in a short amount of time, how much stuff I could actually throw in there. So I did a 100-second or 1 minute and 40-second render, both at stock speeds and overclock speeds. All right, so enough talking about my methodology here. Cinebench 11.5 gave me a score of 15.01. Now, that's at stock speeds. That's 3.5 boost clock. 3.5. So that's already a shit ton more than my 4790K was getting. My 4790K was getting just under 10 with 2000 megahertz RAM on my 4790K, overclocked to 4.7. So already we were 5 points higher on that. For Cinebench 15, I got a 1388, and then for my 1080p 100-second test, it took 131 seconds to complete that render test. So 131 seconds was already a heck of a lot faster than 4790K could do it. It would have probably taken near 3 minutes to do that 1 minute 40-second test based on all of the types of transitions and stuff I put on there. And the computer just went to sleep behind me. Now the other aspect of this was how were the temperatures? I mean, 8 cores, 16 threads, and with the whole way Haswell sort of launched the 4770K and the 4790K, a lot of people were probably expecting, at least I was, expecting there to be some serious temperatures to try and rope in and wrangle. I mean, I thought temperatures were just going to be absolutely untamable, considering the way things had been going in temperatures for the last couple of years. So at the stock 3.5 gigahertz, I think it went up to 1.17 volts. We were actually sitting in the mid 40s, and some cores were actually sitting in the 30s during the render test. Now to kind of put things into perspective, the room is sitting right now at 76 degrees Fahrenheit, and I went ahead and did an ATIS-64 engineering test for 10 minutes just to see if those temperatures would creep higher. And no, they stayed right in the 40s with a couple of cores hitting like 50 or 51. So very, very tameable. But then again, when it comes to cooling, as you can see, I've kind of got a monster rig for cooling here. We're talking a 480 millimeter by 45 millimeter thick radiator dedicated to just the CPU. So yeah, my cooling is it's a little extreme. You see what I did there? Well, my max overclock, guys, was nothing short of average, really. It was a 4.5 gigahertz. Now, I've tried all the different overclocking methods on this. In fact, that's why my video is later than everybody else's. Now, Paul's Hardware was able to get a 4.75 gigahertz overclock. That is massive. That's a 1.75 gigahertz overclock over the base clock of the CPU. That is absolutely insane. We haven't seen those types of overclock numbers since Core 2 Duo days. I mean, that was a long time ago, pre-Sandy Bridge. It just wasn't anything that we saw in a long time. Now mine at 4.5 seems a little bit lackluster, but that's still a 1.5 gigahertz overclock on top of the base clock. That is nothing short of amazing when it comes to overclocks. Now I think Paul's CPU was able to do it at 1.306 volts for that 4.75 gigahertz overclock. Mine took 1.325 volts in order to get me the 4.5 gigahertz overclock. So it took more voltage to get less speed, but hey, at this point, I think as you start getting between 4.5 and 4.75, it's gonna be a little bit of a difference, but not a whole lot. At least that's what I'm telling myself to keep from being mad and jealous of Paul. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And one thing I also forgot to mention for the specs of these benchmarks is the fact that I am also running a G.Skill 2400 megahertz DDR4 16 gigabyte kit, so 4x4 DIMMs. That's the memory configuration on this. I probably should have mentioned that earlier in the video. All right, enough. So Cinebench 11.5 at the 4.5 gigahertz, 19.18. So we jumped from 1501 to 19.18. Cinebench 15, we jumped from 1388 all the way up to 1758. And the 1080p 100-second render test took 1 minute and 43 seconds to render. It took 3 seconds longer than real time. Are you starting to see why I wanted this CPU now? Every minute I can save rendering videos for this YouTube channel means I've got more time to be doing something else on the system or not having to wait for the render to be done to start being productive in some other manner. Now just to kind of put that into a mathematical perspective, if 131 seconds was 100% time that it took to render that video at stock, it only took 78% of that same amount of time to render at overclock. So we're actually talking about a 22% improvement. That is huge. And of course, we've got the temperatures to talk about. Temperatures were sitting right in the mid to upper 60s and couldn't be any happier with those temperatures. I would like lower voltage to do it, but hey, 1.325 volts is still well in the safe range. Guys, it's been JayzTwoCents. These are my overclocking results here with my 5960X. If you're a content creator or you're a heavy renderer, you do 3D CAD or anything like that, you have to consider this CPU. Yeah, it's expensive, but the enthusiast platform lasts a lot longer than the mainstream platform tends to do, and there's going to be some time it takes for this CPU to be trumped. And even if they come out with a brand new processor next year that's marginally faster, this CPU is going to last you a long time. Guys, it's been JayzTwoCents. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Follow on that social media if you want to give me shit for upgrading, even though I just built Skunkworks 2 months ago. But hey, it's the price you pay in order to stay on top of bleeding edge technology and yeah, trust me, it bleeds. Both in speed and wallet pain. All right, guys, catch you in the next one.